Well, greetings, people of the internet. Unky Joe here. Unky Joe's Playhouse. Time for another video in our continuing Home Lab series of videos. Today, part 3, building an actual Windows Home Lab. Let's get started. All right, so if you've been following along with this series, you'll know that we went out and put Proxmox in. I said the first thing we need to do was pick what kind of equipment we're going to use in our home lab. Now, I'm fond of enterprise level equipment, retired enterprise level equipment, but you may be more geared toward the lower power end of the spectrum, and that's fine as well. Nothing wrong with saving power. So a lot of these mini PCs you see going around are perfectly fine for powering a Proxmox, either a standalone home server, or if you want to put them, into a redundant array of several Proxmox devices. That's an advanced topic. We'll get to that eventually. But today what I want to talk to you about is building one of our labs, and it's a Windows lab. And the reason I'm having to do this is because I was short-sighted, and I had LabNet 30 already created, but I didn't do backups of the images I created. Well, fate was fortuitous, and as it happened, I wanted to get my feet wet with Proxmox backup, which I'm also going to be doing a video on coming up in the future. But in order to get my feet wet with Proxmox backup, I thought, well, once I get this LabNet built, I want to back up these machines with this Proxmox backup system so that I can have archival copies of these machines if I ever need to, bring the lab back up. So now today, what this video about, though, is bringing this Windows lab up on the Proxmox server. Now, today we're going to be using the Lenovo SE450 again. Now, initially, what I was going to do with that Lenovo was put Windows Server 2025 on there. And then I got to thinking, no, I'd be better suited to put Proxmox on here and then build a Windows LabNet 30 on there. Already got LabNet 20 on another lab, but I need another Windows lab to run my Windows Server 2022 and Windows 10 and Windows 11 workstations to simulate some stuff we're going to have coming up on upcoming lab videos. Now, for those of you that have been through this before, you've seen me do this before to create a Windows lab, but basically we're going to be creating a couple of domain controllers, and then we're going to configure a Windows 10 and a Windows 11 machine to log on to that Active Directory domain, to join it, to get group policies and all that stuff. So that's what this video is about today. I'm going to show you exactly how I do that, soup to nuts, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more about what I do, what I'm going to do with this lab moving forward. So here we are on the Lenovo SE450 unit. Yeah, it's got Proxmox on it. I Proxmox all the things. I think I'm at this point kind of done with Hyper-V in my networking sphere for now. I don't have real need for anything Hyper-V right now. So putting this SE450 with these lovely Xeon Gold processors and 512 gig of lovely RAM to use, we can build some pretty powerful machines. But right now I need to build LabNet 30.local out because I'm going to be using it. And it was a lab I had set up at a previous installation, and I kind of foobarred it, so I need to get back to where I was. And because it's going to be instrumental in some of the upcoming videos I have going on. So today what we're going to do is we're going to create a domain for LabNet 30.local. We're going to set up a couple of Windows 2022 servers running Active Directory. I'm going to show you how to configure the DNS and that good stuff. Set them up, and then time allowing, we'll join a Windows 11 virtual machine and a Windows 10 virtual machine, both to the servers, and see if they work. And that I just figured I might as well show you how I do this behind the scenes, how I get a lab up and running. And especially now that Server 2022 has become more popular, I still have most of my clients are running 2019 with the exception of one or two. But anyway, I digress. So that's what we're all about here today. Now, the beauty of Proxmox is you can come right into Proxmox, go into the console here, and we have access to the console of the unit, just like if we were sitting right down to it. So we don't even need to have RDP set up, and then I can maximize it like this. So right now, this is a Windows 2022 server, and it is running with, I think I gave it a quad core, yeah. So it's a quad core, 4 gig RAM, Ethernet card. That should be fine for what we're going to do with this thing. So let's go to Server Manager, because we're going to want to make this a domain controller, the primary domain controller. So we need to set it up first. But there are a couple of rules that I go by when I'm setting up a Windows domain controller, any Windows server that has any server responsibility at all, and that's that it have a hard-coded IP address put inside of it. And this one does. I've already set that IP address up to be 30.1. So this is the 30.0 subnet. So this is running Server 2022, and it has a hard-coded IP of 30.1. And let's just click on that, and I'll show you what the rest of it's at. So I created a VLAN for this lab, and then I set up the DHCP server on my router. And so all we'll need here on an Active Directory domain controller is the DNS enabled. So we're going to do that next. But right now I want you to see it has the proper IP address, it knows the default gateway, and it knows where to find DNS. So you want to make sure those settings are correct before you begin this. Also make sure your time zone is correct. And you can see ours is. I also turn off Internet Explorer Enhanced Security Configuration. And then I go ahead and do updates. All right. So now that I've got the updates done, we can go up here to Manage, Add Roles and Features. And you get a little wizard that helps you through this. So it's going to be a role-based or feature-based. We're going to select the 2022-DC1 as our first server or destination. And we're going to install Active Directory domain services right here. And you can see it's going to automatically add all of this additional stuff. So I'll tell you, go ahead and add those features. And then next, it's going to install Group Policy Management, Azure Arc setup. And you notice it doesn't allow us to uncheck that anymore. That's something I saw new in Server 2022 and Server 2025. I have a feeling that Microsoft is going to do away. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they're not going to do away with local Active Directory, because that would just kind of ruin my day. But that's not what this video is about. We're just going to select the defaults here. And the reason I get an unhealthy feeling about that is because of this statement right here. But we're going to ignore it. And then we're going to go ahead and install. So we'll let that run. Make sure it gets started here. Now it's probably going to prompt us for a something about DNS. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe when we go to promote this to a domain controller. But we'll let this run. So now we're presented with the installation progress window that tells us the install was successful, but it needs to promote this server to a domain controller. So I'm going to click on that link, and we're going to add a new forest, and we're going to call this labnet30.local. And I know there's a lot of controversy around what to put as your extension on your root domain name. You put whatever you want in there. Put .net, put .com, whatever you want. If you own a domain, you can do whatever you want. I just use the .local. I typically don't have anything that needs to connect from the internet to these servers using that domain. So it's not an issue for me. I use .local all the time. Click on next, and it should go out. Make sure everything's okay out here. And you'll notice the force functional level is, we're still stuck back on 2016. You can't make it any newer than that because there hasn't been one. There is now with 2025. I got to pay attention to what I'm doing. I got to put a password, recovery password in here. And this is to recover Active Directory. If the database were to get foobarred and you had to restore from a backup, that's the idea of this password. Click on next. I'm not going to worry about DNS delegation or any of that. Click on next. It should come up with a NetBIOS domain name of labnet30 with nothing else. That'd be the old NetBIOS discovery process. All right, click on next. And then should get our credentials here. Yeah, these are the drives in which it's going to install that database I was telling you about. Go ahead and click next. And then all of this can be done out at a script. And so if you want to keep this for the next time you create one of these, you can view the script and you can actually save it. And there's the command line. There's the commands, and you put it in the command line to make this happen in PowerShell. So it's pretty cool. Click on next. We'll go ahead and it's going to give us a prerequisites. As long as you've got greens, you should be golden. Even if you have, I'll show you. Okay, so even though it says you got issues here, you got a green, which means you can install to begin the process. Don't worry about this. Don't want to confuse you. You can read it and be worried about it if you want, but don't worry about it. We'll let it start the install. And you notice now it says waiting for DNS installation to finish. So it is installing DNS. And this will be an Active Directory integrated DNS. You can do a lot of things with DNS. You get a lot of power. It runs the internet. It can also run your local networks and make your life a whole lot easier. So it's still doing its thing. It's going out and creating the databases now. That's why you see all these directory partitions and objects moving and remaining. Now, it'll give you a brief warning that once it's complete, that you're about to be signed out. I think it gives you about 30 seconds. I wanted you to see this. And then it's going to reboot the machine, and we'll come back and see where we are. So I want to share a few thoughts with you as this machine is rebooting. So I think you're fine running Windows Server under Proxmox. In fact, that's a preferred way I do it. If I had a choice as a business, I would just virtualize more or less my entire infrastructure with Proxmox. And as long as you have more than one Proxmox server, you can put one domain controller on one server and one on the other to give you a little bit of redundancy and failover. You always want to have two domain controllers if you're handling your own. So I'm not going to be installing these according to the standards, the best practices, whereas you put your two domain controllers on two physically different servers completely. Different IPs, all that good stuff. But we're going to simulate that in the lab environment. But my point is that you should be able to run Windows Server just fine under Proxmox. If you were running Hyper-V under Windows Server, then I would just tell you to natively install it on the bare metal, and then you could virtualize. You could install Hyper-V as part of that and virtualize anything you wanted to. So, and you don't need to necessarily join that Hyper-V machine to your domain network so you run into the chicken and the egg syndrome. I've had a lot of people ask me, how do you overcome that? You really don't. If you're going to join your Active Directory domain controller, or if you're going to join your hypervisor to the domain, there's some magic you have to do in the background, but I digress. But you can see even after it's installed, it takes a few minutes to come up. Now keep in mind also that I'm not running local NVMe or SSD storage. I'm running this over an NFS share on my Synology flash station. So that could be one reason for the slow slow boot up here. All right, let's see if just hitting the escape key. Nope. Let's see here. Do Control-Alt-Delete. And this time, I think I used a Dama. I may not have. Yeah, it's probably going to be administrator, isn't it? Yeah, you got to log in first as administrator because I did not create another user. So here we are again at Server Manager because it comes up automatically. And right now we are on 2022 DC1 labnet30.local, but there are some problems here that I'm seeing. We may be joined to a domain, but as you can see, the Windows Defender firewall has got a little setting that looks wrong, and that's private. We should be on, it should have detected we're on a domain network, but it's showing our private network is being active, and this is a common problem with Windows Server 2022. And I think it used to happen with 2019 as well. And what it is there is a service. So if we come down here to services, there is a service that is not starting properly. And it's because we've added DNS to the mix here that this service doesn't start correctly anymore. And we'll fix it later. It's called Network Location Awareness. So if you right click on that and choose restart, it's also going to restart network list service. If you've seen any of my other lab videos, you know I've run across this before, and there is a fix for it. There's a registry edit for it, and it's not going to let me do it right now. We have to come back. We'll have to try this again here in a couple of minutes, but the idea is to restart this service, and then eventually it will enable the right firewall. So we'll just let it sit there and stew for a little while. It shouldn't prevent us from doing what we need to do, which is to go and look at the network settings. So let's go here to the network settings, and I want to make sure some of the settings are right. So here's the deal now. So you notice it's changed the DNS server to use the following DNS server addresses, and that's 127.0.0.1. So that means it's going to point to itself for DNS resolution. So we probably want to look and make sure that's working. So I'm going to come out here to the command prompt, or the PowerShell prompt. First of all, let's see if we can make it outside of our network. So we'll do ping, and we'll ping Google's server, and I get a reply. Now let's see if DNS is working. So we'll ping google.com, and yes, it is working. And the reason that's working is because I guess Microsoft creates a forwarder for everything it can't resolve to the proper DNS servers, and you can set those forwarders to what you want them to be in the DNS settings. So let's go over and look at the DNS settings. It should be under Windows Administrative Tools, and then it should be DNS. So for anything this DNS can't resolve, I think it's here though that I want it. Properties. Yeah. Okay. So here's where I want it. Forwarders. So right now it knows forwarders are DNS servers that this server can use to resolve DNS queries for records that the server cannot resolve. For example, 127.0.0.1, that loops back to this server. So if it doesn't, it could just get caught in a loop and never resolve DNS. So this thing tells it, use 8.8.8 as your primary DNS. And if that's not available, use root hints if no forwarders are available. So, and you can even use conditional forwarders, but that's an advanced topic. So you see how the DNS kind of just took care of itself when I installed Active Directory. Now let's see if we can restart that service again. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. It's going to misbehave. So after a few frustrating minutes, I went back and figured out that there were some dependencies that this service needs to be tied to. And so I did that out at the command line. And if my old ape brain remembers it, I'll put it down in the notes section down here under the video. But let's see if it reflected that change in the services. Because you'll notice now, if you looked at the screen, that it was showing us that we had a domain firewall on now. So if we go to network location, awareness, go to properties, there should be some dependencies here now. No. Yes. So we added DNS server has to be up and running, TCP IP has to be up and running, and Active Directory domain services have to be up and running, and a Windows event log. So as long as all those parameters are met, then this one can come up. And then the other thing I did was set it for automatic delayed start. And that appears now to have fixed the problem we were having. So the next thing you want to do is you want to go out and get all the updates you can get. Get that out of your way. So you don't need to see me doing that. I'm going to trust you're going to do that right now. So now you got all your updates installed like I have. Now I do. And you're sitting here at the server manager screen. And now it's time to go over to our secondary domain controller, because this is where we need to do some work. So we're going to come over here to the 2022 DC2. You see we've checked it for updates. I'm going to go ahead and maximize out that screen. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into Server Manager on here. The first thing we're going to do is make sure we've changed some of those settings in Server Manager. Namely, we've given it the right time zone. We've turned the enhanced security configuration off for administrators. Time zone is right. And that we've configured IPv4 correctly. So we know that our IP address is going to be 30.2, 30.254 is the gateway, and 8.8 is the default DNS server. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to Manage, and we're going to add roles and features, just like we did on the first domain controller. It's going to be a role-based or feature-based installation. And we come over here and select the server we want to install it on, this one. And we want to do Active Directory domain services. It'll add those additional features. We'll accept the features on this page, click Next, click on Install. And that'll take a few minutes. So as you can see, we're done. Or not actually. We now have to promote this server to be a domain controller. Now, something we need to talk about. So we're going to add a domain controller to an existing domain. And that domain is going to be labnet30.local. And we'll select that. This is what I was afraid of. This is DNS, I believe, causing this problem. So I'm going to close that. We're going to go here. We're going to change this to 192.168.30.1, and then we'll make the all right, let's see if we have any more success. Okay, where is you? There you are. Select. Okay. There it is. So I had to go change the DNS settings so it knows where LabNet 30 is. Now let's see if I got the login information correct, and I do. Okay, it's very important that it's going to come with a couple of defaults set. You leave these alone. You want to make sure domain name server is selected and global catalog. If you wanted this to be a read-only domain controller, you can do that, but that's an advanced topic we're not going to get into. And then this password is the directory services restore mode password in the event you foobar Active Directory, just like we did on the initial server. We'll click on next. Again, we don't need to worry about a DNS delegation. And we're going to replicate from our primary domain controller, DC1, just to be sure we select one, and we'll leave these. If this was a really big Active Directory network, we need to be concerned about where we put the database files, but we're not going to get a lot of activity on this network. And just like the other one, you could view the script and run that if you wanted to. I'm just going to click on next, and we're going to let this finish installing. Okay, tells us that all the prerequisite checks passed, and now we need to install. And just like before, it's going to log me out, and it's going to restart the server, and that should be a sign that so far so good. We'll come back on the other side. So I rebooted the machine and logged back in as the administrator on the domain, and voila, it worked. However, we do need to fix something that's going to bug me, and that is the fact that it's got the wrong DNS in there. So we need to fix that. So we're going to come out here to the IP address, and I'm going to show you a little trick I learned. So what you do is, since there's another DNS server on the network, it's the primary, we're going to list that as our DNS server. And then for the secondary, we're going to list 127.0.0.1. So that's a loopback address for this machine. So that if the first DNS server is not available, the secondary one will just point back to itself on the loopback. And I'm going to do the same thing with this server as well. We'll redirect it back to itself. I know it seems kind of counterintuitive, but this is how I'm told it's done. So we'll come out here. There we go. So the first one we want to point to is 192.168.30.2, and then 127.0.0.1. Sorry, .1, not .0. And there you go. And that should be all you need to do to get your domain controllers up and running. We got them both up and running here, and I assume they're communicating. Let's see. We can open Active Directory users and computers and get a better view of what's going on here. There's our domain. Here's our domain controllers. So, success. So now we got the two domain controllers squared away. Let's work on getting our Windows 11 and Windows 10 units joined to the LabNet 30.local network. So these Windows units were created by cloning a template. So they've all been brought up and named, but they haven't been set up properly. So the first thing I'm going to do is go out and look at their IP address, and you can see right here, this has got an IP address of 5.51, so that's not going to work. So I'm just going to go ahead and shut this virtual machine down. Then this Windows 11 virtual machine has got an IP address of 90.135, so we're going to go ahead and shut it down as well. And I'm going to do this in order to change the subnet or the VLAN that these machines are on. So now that the Windows 10 machine is done, I can go to hardware here, and I can go over here to the network and add it to the 30 VLAN. Same way with the Windows 11 machine. We come over here to network and change that to the 30 VLAN. And then we can restart these two machines. See if we can get an IP address on the proper VLAN. All right, so they've restarted now. So let's go up to our summary, and that's much better. They're now getting an IP address of 30.95. What's important, though, is to remember that even though we've got them on the proper VLAN, i.e. VLAN 30, and on the proper subnet now, are they getting the proper DNS information, configuration? Do they know where the primary DNS server is? So I don't know that we can get that information by clicking on more, and it doesn't look like we can. So we're going to have to actually go into the unit and log in and see if we can't see what kind of IP address it's getting. We'll go ahead and do that now. And I have to admit, the Proxmox console works very well with Windows interface as far as scaling and everything goes. I get a pretty good image out of the their console. It's not bad. So a couple ways we can do this. We can right click here on the network, and then we can come down to, let's see, Ethernet, and then we should be able to see the IP address assignment, which is 30.95. And then here are our DNS servers, 30.1 and 30.2. So when we created this network under Unify in our previous video, we specified that 30.1 and 30.2 are the primary DNS servers, and 8.8.8 is the third DNS server, and we included the primary DNS suffix into Unify. So now you can see the value of doing that, or you will be, because we'll be able to basically join this domain without any issues. Now, one thing I did forget to mention is the fact that we probably need to go under here, under our server, our domain controller, and you notice we're still logging on as administrator. So best practice would say let's create a new account to be our domain administrator, and then we can disable that administrator account, which I believe is best practices. So I'm just going to go here to local server, then I'm going to come up here to tools, and I do it through computer management here, but actually that's not where I need to do it. I'm thinking I'm not on a domain. So this is how I would do it if I wasn't on a domain, but I am on a domain controller. So we have to bring up Active Directory, domains, and users. Yeah, Active Directory, computers, and users. So we'll bring that up. There we go. Yeah. So we'll go here to users. And you see right here we have a user. Now normally I would create an organizational unit and put that into there, but just for the purposes of this video, we're not going to do that. We're just going to we're going to right click on administrator, and we're going to copy that user, and then we'll create our administrator user, and that's Bill Adama. And the login name is Adama. And the password is super secret password 2025. And then I always set it as password never expires. That is definitely not best practice, but that's all right. Now, I've already copied from the administrator user, so this user should now have the same permissions that administrator did, and he does. It's domain administrator, domain users, enterprise admin, group policy creator, and schema admin. So now that I've done that, I can go ahead and log out of this server and log back in as Adama. So we'll come here to other user. It's already got LabNet 30 selected. So best practice would be to put a LabNet 30 / Adama, but if you have trouble logging into the domain, do that. But this should work. So now I've created a user to replace administrator. I can go into the Active Directory users and computers on this server and disable the administrator account. So we'll do that next. Now, if this starts annoying you, the server manager, it does me. So I tell it, do not start at login. Now, I waited to do that until now, until I actually logged in with the account I was going to use for my admin account. The other thing I'm going to do is come here to administrative tools, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to pin some of these to the taskbar. So there's that one. I want to do computer management over there as well. Let's see. Yeah, pin to the taskbar. I want to pin DNS to the taskbar. And probably group policy management while I'm here. All right, now we're going to go under Active Directory users and computers again. We're going to go into LabNet 30, and we're going to go to users. And then we're going to right click on administrator, and we're going to go to disable account. And now you should see the little icon next to it has changed to let you know that that account is disabled. And that should be good. Now, let's go to our second Active Directory controller. And let's just kind of verify that we can log on. And again, it's already selected the domain for us. So we should be, in theory, able to use this login. And it should work. All right. Same thing on here. Now that we've logged in as the domain user, domain administrator, we can set this up so it doesn't bring up the server manager every time the machine boots up. And then I'm going to go ahead and create my shortcuts again for this machine. I really like that we can pin stuff to the taskbar. That's one of the benefits of going to Server 2022. You get Windows 10-like interface on server. If you go to 2025, you get the Windows. It's like a cross between Windows 10 and 11 on the desktop. And I think that's all the shortcuts we need. Did I get Computer Manager? Yeah. So we should be good. We're joined to the domain. The time zone looks correct. All of that looks good. So I think now we're ready to move over to the Windows 11 unit and see if we can get it working properly and join to the domain. Actually, a slight change of plans here. We're going to move over to our Windows 10 unit. We're going to make sure we've got an IP address on the 30 VLAN, and we do 30 subnet 30.82. And then we'll go ahead and we'll log in to this console. And then we should be able to verify that we've got correct DNS settings in here. I'm sure they are. The unified DHCP server, we pre-programmed all that. So this one, and it even sees the LabNet 30.local. So I would say it's safe to assume that it's seeing the network correctly. We're about to find out. So we'll go to, I think we go to View Hardware and Connection Properties. There we go. So 30.82. So there's our IPs for our DNS, 30.1, 30.2, and 8.8.8, and the LabNet 30 prefixes in there. So we should be golden. We should be able to come over here now to Settings and go down, or go to System, and then come down to About, and we should be able to join the domain here. It's already got the right name in it. Let's see, where are you? Well, I don't see it here. Let's go back to rename this PC. No, how about advanced? Oh, we need to be on rename this PC advanced. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. Under computer name, go to change. And here's the domain setting. So we'll come and join labnet30.local. And then it should prompt us to log on. That's the account we created, the domain admin account, over on those two domain controllers. Click on OK, and then if all is well, it should tell us we've joined the domain. It has, and now it's ready for us to reboot. Alrighty, we'll let her reboot. Alright, so we've rebooted. Time to log in. Now, I'm going to choose other user because I want to make sure that I'm logging onto the domain. And you can see it says sign into LabNet 30. So it's automatically filled that in. But again, it's probably not a bad idea to type in LabNet 30 / Adama just to be safe the first time you log into the domain. But now what this will do is it'll create a profile under this Windows 10 desktop for the domain admin user called Adama, and then we should be able to log in. We should get a desktop and should be able to do things we normally do. So this is going to take a few minutes. We'll let that carry on. All right, so we appear to be joined to the domain, and we have rebooted. And let me go over to settings. We'll just make sure system, because I want to change another setting while we're here. So we'll go to About, and then it should tell us that we're joined to labnet30.local. It does. Now we'll go to remote desktop, and we'll make sure that's turned on. It is. Cool. Cool. And yeah, it looks like everything is good. Let me show the settings. I don't want the screen to do anything, so we'll tell it never. All right, and we should be good to go. So we now have Windows 10 joined to our labnet30.local. It's getting an IP address in the proper subnet. And now I just need to repeat that, rinse and repeat with the other 4 Windows 10 units. All right, so let's go do the same thing, but this time let's do it on a Windows 11 virtual machine. So we'll come here to Settings. We'll go to System and go to About. And we've already named this unit, and that is 11E-001. So what we're going to do is go to Domain or Workgroup right here. And we're going to change that, and we're going to join the LabNet 30.local domain. And again, we should be prompted for the domain password, domain user password. And we know hit the caps lock key by mistake. We know Adama has those permissions, so that's the account we will use. Use whatever admin account you've created. Welcome to the LabNet30.local network. And it should tell me it wants to reboot, and I'll tell it that's fine. And then when we come back, we should be able to log in. All right, so the unit has rebooted. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select other user when we log in. And we're going to select the Adama user. Make sure it says LabNet 30 down there. If it doesn't, Remember, you can type in labnet30 up on the username and a backslash, then the username and password, and it'll have the same effect. But this should get us logged into the domain, set up a profile for us under Windows 11. Yep, that's exactly what it's doing. So we'll let it finish creating our profile. All right, so we're finally at our desktop. It's running a little sluggish, and I'm noticing the time zone is wrong. So I'm going to go over here and try to adjust the time and date. And good, it looks like I'm going to be able to. There was a weird little bug in Windows 11 for a while that wouldn't allow you to change the time zone. It was like right after or right before the 24H2 update took effect. Anyway, I digress. So we're going to go back to settings, and then we're going to go to system, and then we'll come down to about, and we should see that we're now joined to the domain. Yes, we are labnet30.local. We're running Windows 11 Enterprise. Do we have a product key? No, we gotta get ourselves activated. But we do have, I believe, let's see if we have remote desktop. Nope, but we do now. And we'll go ahead and confirm that. And there we go. Now we've got our Windows 11 unit joined to the domain. Now we just need to do the other four, and we should be good to go. So there you go. I hope you found the video entertaining and informative as always. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up down below. Leave your comments in the comments section, and let me know how you're enjoying things. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and click that notification bell to be notified of new videos when they become available. Donate if you're so inclined. We accept PayPal, Patreon, the YouTube join function, all the usual suspects. You can find all of our social media links at UnkyJoe'sPlayhouse.com. Thanks again for coming to see us, and don't forget, we'll see all of you on the other side.
I've been watching old Unky Joe. From Texas heat to where the cacti grow. Fixing server, solar power in the land. Hoping that his plans all stand. Making life a touch more bright underneath those southern lights.